What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today is going to be day 2, rounds 2 and 3 of this 3-round trades mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all know how to use YouTube at this point. We're going to be reviewing the first round, but it's probably going to be a lot easier for y'all just to go back and watch that first video because it was exciting. A ton of big moves. We'll discuss the bigger ones right over here, but again, it's a little bit more exciting when we get to break down every single pick over there. So feel free to go over there and then come back and hang out once again. Below my face is my board. Below that are all the great ways to get involved in the community, as well as take advantage of our 2 sponsors, UnderDog Fantasy, as well as Olipop. So use those codes, show some love for your boy, be able to make some money on your own, and get some free stuff all on the house. Let's get right into this. Let's have a good time. So starting out, we ended off doing pretty much no trades in the early part of this draft. There is a semi-solidified, logical explanation for the majority of these picks right here. And again, I'm going to allow y'all to show me a little bit of love by reviewing that first rounder. But, we had that first trade at pick 9 where Chicago traded with New Orleans, y'all have even pointed this out. New Orleans has said they found a sweet spot in the top 10 to potentially move up. Could even be the Falcons because y'all also brought up that their front offices are connected. There are some familiar faces between these two. Even though they're in the same division, could certainly be a place where there is a move up for someone like Olu Fashanu. So, yeah, Chicago traded back to 14. New Orleans moved up, and then they selected Olu Fashanu to play that left tackle for the future. Another move was a big one. Denver traded all the way back to the back end of the first round with San Francisco in a blockbuster trade for San Francisco to land Talise Fuwaga, right tackle out of Oregon State. Massive hole on their roster, plenty of compensatory picks as well. This team's going to be super loaded with draft capital, and they can just continue to spend it as they please. So part of that Chicago trade, they moved back and still selected Dallas Turner, acquiring a second-round pick. At pick 17, Jacksonville moved back with the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles, since they have so many picks and they have a massive hole at right tackle after Lane Johnson leaves, which they always draft a year in advance before we think they should. Marius Mims was on the board at 6'7", 340 pounds. Very hard to say no to that. I know some people got kind of grouchy about that second-round pick leaving. Listen, y'all, you're a Super Bowl caliber roster that is pretty damn used to, manipulating these picks in order to get exactly what you need. And, Marius Mims is exactly the player that y'all need. That second round pick is not going to help you out as much as you think that this would. So, Marius Mims is going to be a massive asset for the Eagles. So we actually had a trade up as well. Pittsburgh traded back with the Houston Texans, and they selected Tavondre Sweat. We could have went after Byron Murphy because he's a super stud, but wanted to change it up, get someone who's about 360 plus pounds. I think it was 363, who could stuff the run and be a massive asset in the pass rush as well. So we also had that trade back again. Philadelphia traded up with Jacksonville. Jacksonville moved back and got Keon Coleman. Pittsburgh moved back. Again, we just talked about that trade and got Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, future center for them right there. And then part of that trade back as well with San Francisco was the Broncos moving back to select Michael Penix Jr., age, injury, and then just, again, recency bias, but a poor last game is unfortunately going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. So we end off the big moves there. We will continue to re-reference these picks, but for the time being, we are at pick number 33 with the Carolina Panthers. And looking at the offensive tackles available, I might want to take Tyler Guyton and move him to left tackle and kick Icky inside, but Tyler Guyton's too much of a project. It's very difficult to transition right tackle to left. You don't want to put Bryce Young at risk by pretty much having a developmental left tackle. You're having issues as it is. It's not a bright idea to get a massively uncertain asset to be moved to the most valuable position on a potentially injury-prone quarterback because he's, a midget, a majute. So I think that it's probably best for us to maybe not go that route. If you really want to get a left tackle, one, pray to God that one of these falls to you. That's a good start. But number 2, you also should look at free agency. There very well might be some dudes who are out there that are going to be the right value. So looking at the options, you got Brian Thomas here. Very hard to say no, but at the same time, the last wide receiver you took out of LSU, who was supposed to be a first-round pick, hasn't really fully worked out. You got Xavier Legette here, who's super exciting. We can keep him in South Carolina. You got Jalen Polk here as well, who officially declared. There's a lot of really good weapons. And for me, I just want to get the best of the best. Xavier Legette's my next best one on the board that would fit the role that I'd want for the Panthers, and that's a true wide receiver one. Xavier Legette, to me, is a bigger version of what we saw Malik Neighbors last year be. Malik took big steps up in terms of his route running. Xavier is still a little bit nuanced in that category, but heavily underrated in terms of his actual impact on the game. A.D. Mitchell is incredible as well. But we're going to go Xavier Legette here out of South Carolina to the Panthers. At pick 34 for the New England Patriots, this is a prime opportunity to bolster your wide receiver core with Drake Maye. And I really love the idea of pairing up Drake as well as Devontae Walker. That's just a thing I love to do. But y'all have been 100% right. I called myself out on this. It's been too damn consistent. So let's change things up. Brian Thomas Jr. is rarely on the board at this point. Let's go after a 6'4", 205-pound speed deep threat to add so Drake Maye can just hit him consistently over the top. Very excited to see what that duo can do. Again, I could have went after Tyler Guyton there, but I think I did. I'm pretty sure like 99% that I did that literally this week. So it's another way to just get a cool player who ended up falling. At pick 35 for the Arizona Cardinals, we went Nate Wiggins as well as Marvin Harrison Jr. And we've made pretty much no trades so far as well. So this team, where we need to focus is defensive interior as well. I mean, defensive interior, edge rusher, and right tackle. Because of the fact that I want Paris Johnson to go back to left, DJ Humphries went down with a nasty injury, and it's going to be pretty much 1 year until y'all can get rid of him. I think that he might be on his way out. And even if he's not, Tyler Guyton very well could use a year in order to fully develop into a starting right tackle. I think he could start right away, but if you need him to, he could certainly sit and develop. It's weird going a full offensive route because there are defensive interiors here who I absolutely adore, could be a great day one asset for you guys. But I do want to test out a more offensive heavy approach. And so we got a star corner at least. Now is going to be a good time to test out that right tackle spot, move Paris back to his native position at left. At pick 36, that would have been a really nice target for the Commanders. We ended up missing out on that. No teams wanted to trade back, but who cares? Braylon Trice is on the board, my number 5 player in the draft, hence why I haven't moved my board yet. This team is pretty damn desperate for edge rush help. They also need tackles, but again, we just took the last viable tackle off the board. Braylon Trice, 274 pounds at 6'4", pure monster. He doesn't have the bend maybe that people would actually be looking for, but he has overall really solid production, had a slow start to the year, but ended off pretty damn hot, and that is great. He's a great player, very much underappreciated, but we're going to show him the love he deserves here. At pick 37 for the Los Angeles Chargers, we went Brock Bowers in the first. Troy Franklin actually wouldn't be a bad option here. I've gone corner 2 for this team several times, and I haven't really gone a full offensive heavy approach for them in a hot minute. And so I think that it's time to, give a former Oregon Duck an Oregon Duck. So you got Herbert potentially getting Troy Franklin here. I think that'd be great. I know that with our next selection, there probably won't be one of these amazing receivers on the board. And this team should be focusing offensive heavy. I mean, naturally, that's your asset. That's your biggest strength. You do have some holes at corner 2 at such. And again, I've addressed that plenty of times in the past, but this is going to be the right move for the team. Troy Franklin is a dynamic first-round quality wide receiver. For me, he is sitting, where is he at on my board? 36. Technically, actually, he's above Xavier Legette, which I misquoted myself then, but 2 entirely different players. But still, he's super fluid. He added on another 10 pounds, so he's up to 187, 177 as he was back in 2022. But he is a dynamic threat, continue to develop, just really smooth in terms of his routes, an overall very talented receiver. And, the Chargers are going to need compliments for if Quentin Johnston continues to develop, he still needs a number 2 man. And that's going to be Troy Franklin on the boundary. And then you have Brock Bowers to be able to play pretty much anywhere else. So big fan of that pick right there. At pick 38 for the Tennessee Titans, Troy Franklin would have been great. With the coaching change, which Again, I'm not a huge fan of that. I know that you guys want to go more offensive minded, maybe get Slowick in there from Houston, maybe Ben Johnson, that'd be pretty cool, but it's not really that attractive of a coaching hire, no disrespect, but without Derrick Henry, there's still offensive line needs, which we addressed that in the first round by getting Joe Alt. Like, there's certainly some room for improvement that maybe a solidified coaching talent doesn't want to step in and rebuild a franchise. They probably just want to hit the ground running. But regardless, at pick 38, defensive back, more offensive line, wide receiver, that's the way to go. Like, I do believe that this is the correct set of needs for this team. I really love A.D. Mitchell. Want to get him higher up in the draft order. I want to look at the offensive line because they could. I mean, I totally forgot about the fact I took Tyler Guyton earlier, but that would definitely be a range that I think would be a good spot for him to go. Cam Kinchens, Tyler Nubin, certainly on my radar since, you got rid of Kevin Byard. It's a good spot to go. But still, wide receiver is going to be the way I rock. We're going to be going A.D. Mitchell out of Texas. 6'4", 200 pounds. He's just under. He's like 196. But super fluid after the catch. Really good change of direction. Might be one of my fast risers when I regrade him. But this team certainly needs a little bit extra juice on the boundary for the long run. At pick 39 for the New York Giants, they selected Malik Nabers in round number 1. And with the 39th overall selection, I could definitely look at interior offensive line here and get a massive upgrade with Christian Haynes out of Connecticut. I'm trying to push him a little bit higher since he is literally in my blue chip tier there at 12. Like, should be trying to push him into that category. Could look to develop a future right tackle instead of Evan Neal, but I'm not a huge fan of that unless you want to trade Evan Neal away, which I could do that. It's possible, but with the tackles that are left on the board, if Tyler Guyton were on the board, we could discuss a trade with that, but it's just not going to happen. I do think there could be an edge number 2. Wink Martindale has like a sub 11% pass rush win rate. You could certainly upgrade that with getting a second edge rusher like JT Tuimoloau to complement Kayvon Thibodeau, because Kayvon's a little bit on the smaller side compared to JT, who's in that 270 frame. Could certainly be a massive asset for the team. I've taken quarterback with JJ McCarthy quite a few times. I'm going to opt out of that this time just because I think JJ needs an extra year. I think the NFL knows that, but there's not many other quarterbacks for him to compete with in this draft. So I'm actually going to go after the edge route because I think Chris Braswell, JT Tuimoloau, both of them are phenomenal, but Chris Braswell doesn't have the size that JT does, and I think JT complements what they have there in KT. You got KT and JT, which would be a very nice duo. At pick number 40 for the Washington Commanders, JT Tuimoloau might have been my next selection with Braylon Trice now on the team as well. Could have been a really, really solid duo at 270 pounds plus. Looking at it this moment, I'm looking at Chris Braswell. I get very excited. I think this guy is phenomenal. Now, he's not, a 24th overall player for me or, even 34th, but he is certainly at least worth considering. I could move back here. Honestly, I might want to take my second edge rusher at 67. If he ends up falling there, I do still have Xavier Thomas out of Clemson. I just don't think he'll end up actually going that high. I think he will end up being probably a third rounder because of the fact he's a really good athlete and was crazy. It was a crazy amount of hype coming out of high school. Regardless, I want to look at some other positions. There's some really good defensive interiors on the board that, we should be trying to move up for. There's is a semi drop off in terms of defensive interior talent. And there should be some teams that are looking to acquire said defensive interiors. Now for the Bears, we did end up moving back and the Bears ended up missing out on some wide receiver talent. Looking at the ones available, you still got Devontae Walker there. And that could be a really good move for both franchises to be able to, get their wide receiver number 2. Ooh, Jalen Polk though. I have Jalen Polk above Devontae Walker. And I think that's a move that the Commanders should be willing to make and the Bears should be willing to make. I do see a team right here in the Falcons that will be very hungry for a wide receiver after they went edge rusher in the first. So the Chicago Bears are making a move up here. They will be using Las Vegas's pick that they sent for Justin Fields. Forgot to mention that earlier as well. And for a 5-spot range, I think it's fair to We might want to do a quick swap here of 75 to 100. Maybe you can toss in a future like 6th round pick to, sweeten the deal a little bit if you're Washington. But essentially, Washington moves up 25 spots to move back for a huge need for the Bears. Because, again, I'm going to be taking probably the one guy who I genuinely like in this territory. It's a little bit expensive. Like, maybe we could swap this for a future 5th or a future 4th. But that'll be the trade right there. So Chicago is now on the board here at 40, selecting Jalen Polk out of Washington, 6'2", 204 pounds, dynamic after the catch. There's a really top-tier player that could be a great complement for what y'all have right now with DJ Moore. It gives Caleb Williams a top-tier weapon. So you got Caleb Williams, Jalen Polk, as well as Dallas Turner. At pick number 41 for the Green Bay Packers, we ended up targeting Terrion Arnold in round number 1. And with this selection, hate to be boring, but if he's on the board, it's a great pick. It's Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota. The team needs safety help. That's just the way I'm going to rock. It's the way I'm going to rock every single time. Safeties fall. Tyler Nubin, used to the area as well, can play in that climate. And then he also has just been super consistent this year. Big fan of Nubin. At pick 42 for the Minnesota Vikings, we ended up targeting a quarterback in Bo Nix in round number 1. And in round number 2, the Minnesota Vikings could end up moving back, but the defensive line needs some help. And it's either going to be Chris Braswell. Actually, Jonah Ellis declared for the draft. Mind-boggling. Thank you guys for being able to let me know about that. But it's Chris Braswell, Jonah Ellis, or defensive interior. The DI definitely could be the right move, but Chris Braswell is going to have a ton of hype on him. It's going to be BPA. You're losing both Marcus Davenport as well as Danielle Hunter to free agency. Hopefully you can re-sign one, but I highly doubt that you re-sign both. At pick number 43 for the Atlanta Falcons, went after an edge rusher in Jared Verse at pick number 8. So for what is this? I'm forgetting what pick we're at right now. 43rd overall pick. The Atlanta Falcons need to be looking at wide receiver. Devontae Walker is actually he's a really good number 2 to have on your squad. Brett Coleman has him in his tier 3 around like number 5 overall. In terms of his overall receiver rankings, I'm not there with him just yet, but we'll definitely see in due time. I think this would be a nice compliment to Drake London. So Devontae Walker going and staying in the South, going from North Carolina to Georgia. At pick number 44, we're back with the Commanders. Lost out on Chris Braswell, boohoo, whatever. For me, what I'm actually going to do is get a developmental tackle here in Karan Amajaje. I'm so glad PFF actually has him at 45th overall in their rankings. He's a phenomenal player and, just tons of upside as an athletic left tackle. Just needs to get more training. I mean, he went to Yale. So I think with 1 year development, he's going to be a great asset. And with that mobility, him and Jayden Daniels, and now you also have Braylon Trice on the team, that's going to be a potential franchise-changing move. And we got that extra move up as well. It's just the right thing to do. Pick number 45 for the Chicago Bears. So we can end up trading back here as well. I got Kamari Lassiter on the board. So with the Bears trade up, we could kind of do a Howie Roseman move and, move back again. With such a top-tier corner on the board, that is what I want to do. I want to target a center as well. Looking at it, I could be worried about the Jaguars going after an athletic offensive interior. It is a concern. Same thing with the New York Giants. But I actually might want to trade with the Giants here. Well, let's see. Let's plan this out a little bit. Let's project. So the Giants, if I move up, I'm getting Christian Haynes. That's just what I'm doing. He's a phenomenal player, top 12 player on my board. And you're going to essentially be securing him over the Jaguars, who could be also trying to move into this range. So if I end up drafting or end up moving maybe with the Jaguars, because they just acquired more draft capital too, we could have the Jaguars move up, get Christian Haynes. That would be a really good, it would be a very much a bulky move as well. And then the Bears could sit and pray to God that they end up getting Cedric Van Pran. It's not a bad idea. I just would be worried right here with the Giants, but with the Giants, I highly doubt that that's going to be the move that I would make with them. The Falcons, I could have actually went after JJ McCarthy, but I think they're going to try to move into a different direction with Kirk Cousins. Just that's also another spoiler alert right there. That's the free agency signing I see for ATL. I'm going to actually make that move. I'm going to make the move with the Jaguars. because the Jaguars are going to feel a little bit of pressure there from NY, and they have extra picks now too. So this is going to be a 3-spot move up. I think actually what's going to be funny is we're essentially going to do the exact same move that Washington did, but we're going to actually get a little bit better value out of it for the Bears, so to speak, because the Bears, you had to give up 25 spots to move up 5, and this case it's 3. So, we can sweeten up the deal maybe with a 6th-round pick here. Whenever it's just slightly above 50%, that's when I feel comfortable with that trade compensation, and it will affect the mock draft, but essentially the Bears move back 4 spots, or they move up 5 spots, and then they move back 3, and then they move back 4. That's how we rock it here. So a 9-spot differential to be able to acquire the players that you want. It is what it is. Jacksonville Jaguars end up moving up. They drafted Keon Coleman in the 1st round. Hello. And now they draft Christian Haynes, athletic interior offensive lineman out of Connecticut. Indianapolis Colts are on the board. And in the 1st round, I always go Cooper DeJean for y'all, just because I love that versatility. He can even play boundary corner or slot. But, for me, I think he could be a top 10 safety in the NFL. Looking at the options that are best, I'm going to go defensive interior here all day. You got Chris Jenkins on the board. You could go Leonard Taylor, but I don't trust him as a nose. Chris Jenkins, even though he does play even some edge reps, I trust him as a nose 10 times more than Leonard Taylor, because Leonard's put on weight and he belongs at 290 and being just a freak athlete. He's tried to be up to 305 pounds and just doesn't look the same. Chris Jenkins is a far superior product. So you're getting 2 massive additions on that defensive line. At pick 47 for the New York Giants, I told y'all I didn't want to go quarterback, but I didn't think J.J. McCarthy would actually be here. Again, that's because of the fact that I think the Falcons are going to be targeting Kirk Cousins. So there you go. So J.J. McCarthy, that's probably going to be the move. So you got J.T. Tuimoloau, Malik Neighbors, and J.J. McCarthy. Not a bad trio. At pick 48 for the Chicago Bears. So I already telegraphed this move. We're going Cedric Van Pran. They need a center. So you're going to be able to get Jalen Polk, Cedric Van Pran, Dallas Turner, as well as Caleb Williams. That's just going to be a really easy way to be able to bounce back and kick some ass. And apparently, Eberflus is staying for the 2024 season. A lot of people are a little bit grouchy about that. But when you think about it, head coaches need to be competent in their area of expertise. And the defense was rocking. And that's what Eberflus's skill is. Now, there is a chance that Cliff Kingsbury could be brought to the Bears and signed as their OC to let Caleb Williams, flourish for one more year under Cliff. Or maybe Cliff succeeds Eberflus. God only knows. But, that's an idea I saw get thrown out there. It would be pretty cool, but essentially you need a good offensive mind, and then that can actually balance out the great defensive mind in Eberflus. At pick 49 for the Cincinnati Bengals, we got Jatavian Sanders here. That's the way I normally rock. We went in the 1st round after a right tackle and J.C. Latham. Could go Jatavian Sanders here out of Texas because, again, that's a pretty standard 1-2 for me. Defensive interior, also a big position to go after. And you know what? Let's keep it exciting. Leonard Taylor's on the board, and that's a perfect guy to replace DJ Reader or complement him, depending on what y'all think. At pick 50, there's Kamari Lassiter still on the board. The Eagles already moved up for Amarius Mims. This is their 1 pick in the 2nd round, with James Bradbury probably on the way out. And then, big play Slay only having like 1 more year of legit being on contract. You do have a lot of corners on roster. However, you are building pretty much the Georgia defense. And Kamari has instant chemistry with Keely Ringo. And then you also have Eli Ricks there. You're building up a really strong corner core for the future. The chemistry is really what sells me there. And again, it's cheap analysis to say it's a Georgia corner. But when you do believe that they're trying to have Keely Ringo be one of their top corners, if not the top dog, it's great to have his number 2. Or potentially Kamari could be the number 1. But it's good to have that chemistry between the corners that, you don't have to develop it, which is great. At pick 51 for the Green Bay Packers, I think I might trade back here. You got some elite corners still on the board. You got Cam Kinchins on the board. Like, looking at it, Kalen King is almost a no-brainer. And I'm looking at Pittsburgh because, above them, we got the Texans. And the Texans are in the market for a secondary player. Kalen King could be one of those, even though I'm pretty sure I know exactly where I'm going for the Texans. For the Rams even could use a corner as well. And there are teams that, even the Lions, they can get ballsy and move up for a corner. So I think this is the prime opportunity, even though Green Bay doesn't need more picks, they're going to be trading with the Steelers because the Steelers picked up some extra draft capital. They picked up that 88th overall selection. And, for a 4-spot move up, we have actually been doing, a 20 to 25 spot move up in the 3rd round. Therefore, I think it's pretty valuable it's pretty fair to say that it's going to be worth roughly going to be like this 4th round pick as well as a future 5. And again, in that 80% range, I feel pretty comfortable. It's a way that Green Bay gets to add even more draft capital. I could end up just saying I'm tossing in like a future 3rd, but that's rich. I mean, it could do that and then toss in, for example, pick 119. But I don't think we want to do that. Like maybe I'll be generous right here and go after round 4 pick in the future. So we send 2 fourths to move up. I'm not doing that. We're going for the 5th round pick. So Pittsburgh gets 51. They move up 5 spots. Green Bay gets 122 and a next year 5 as well. A small price to pay for, as y'all know, sucker for a storyline, Kalen King pairing back up with Joey Porter Jr. This is the range where I think people are very comfortable with that idea. He's a great corner. In this draft, we have the corners who are falling. At pick 52 for Tampa Bay, interior offensive line is a position I think you can go after, but this class is so deep on day 3, or even round 3, we'll still find someone who's a really good player. I highly doubt that that's going to be the move y'all would want to target. So other positions you can go after, tight end is certainly, you can pair up Cade Otton with Jatavian Sanders. I would love that idea. You can also go after a wide receiver. You got Johnny Wilson, who could eventually be a Mike Evans replacement for you. And to be fair, he could transition to wide receiver. So I'm actually going to go Johnny Wilson here out of Florida State to be staying in Florida and being able to help out the Buccaneers. So Buccaneers go Johnny Wilson at pick 53 for the Houston Texans. You got Cam Kitchens on the board. I think this team could totally use that safety help, that safety boost for the future. Another position it could go after is Jatavian Sanders again, but Cam Kitchens is BPA. You go after BPA, you pair them up in that safety core. Just get better and better. You got Tavondre Sweat and Cam Kitchens helping out in the D-line as well as in the secondary. 54 for the Los Angeles Rams. Corner is the position to go. In the 1st round, let's make sure I didn't go corner. We went Jordan Morgan. That is intriguing. I haven't gone Jordan. I didn't even remember going Jordan Morgan at this point. You got Denzel Burke on the board. Hard to pass on him. You got Denzel Burke. You got TJ Tampa. You got Quinyon Mitchell. All these guys, phenomenal players. Quinyon's more of the ball hawk. TJ Tampa's more of the physical. And then Denzel Burke is more of the high ceiling. So it really just depends on what you're going for. Quinyon Mitchell, also very similar in terms of high ceiling and proven production as well. So after going tackle, I think this actually wouldn't be a bad idea. Let's go Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. I know my Rams fans are a big fan of that one, so I'm going to be perfectly fine giving y'all what you ask for. At pick 55 for the Green Bay Packers, we are going linebacker for you. And, the reason why Devondre Campbell can't stay healthy, I know a lot of y'all have been talking about that. Edgerrin Cooper might be the best guy, might be the best linebacker in terms of PFF grade, but I think Junior Colson, even though he didn't necessarily pop off the screen in the Natty, he's just so consistent the whole year round. He's 250 pounds at 6'3". You're getting a true Mike linebacker that this class does not have. This is essentially going to be the Jack Campbell of the class because there are very few Mike linebackers, and you're going to be able to use him in a multitude of ways. I love the balance that Junior Colson brings to the table. At pick number 56 for the Miami Dolphins, tight end's going to be the way I rock here for y'all, but we went Graham Barton, a versatile interior offensive lineman in round number 1. Jatavian Sanders is going to give you a very versatile weapon in round number 2. At pick number 57, we're back with the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was part of that Philadelphia Eagles trade, and I really wish we had Cam Kitchens on the board. I would love to have that, but while being able to draft Keon Coleman as well as Christian Haynes, it's a good start. I think defensive line could be a way they do go, but I'm actually going to look at the corners. You got Denzel Burke here, is phenomenal. TJ Tampa, though, when you look at his build, 6'2", 200, and a heavy hitter, he's going to be an asset, and he very well could transition to corner in the later part or safety in the later part of his career and actually be still a very valuable asset there as well. So for me, I'm going to be going TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. At pick number 58 for the Kansas City Chiefs, we went after Byron Murphy, the second in the 1st round. And yes, Byron Murphy is my new blue chip player there at 13 overall on my board. So, yeah, you got Byron Murphy. Let's get a wide receiver in here. And look at this. Randomly, you still have some really good players because it's a deep wide receiver class, even when I take all of them. It's Xavier Worthy or Jermaine Burton. I appreciate the extra 30 pounds that Jermaine Burton brings at a similar speed and actually better jump catch ability. So I think that for those reasons, we are going Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. Again, he's 6 foot as well, so it's not like he's short. So 6 foot, 200 pounds, deep threat as well, great speed, great jump catch ability. Big fan of him. Pick number 59 for the Cleveland Browns. Defensive interior is a good way to go because they do need some pass rush help on the defensive interior. Could just go get another corner here in Denzel Burke and just say screw it. But, this team also could be in the market for a trade out. Wide receiver, they did end up getting rid of Donovan Peoples-Jones. There is a vacancy there. I don't think Xavier, they don't even have a true burner, but you're going to be competing essentially with Elijah Moore. And I don't know how comfortable I am with that idea with him or Ladd McConkey. Other position to target, Kalen Bullock, getting another really high-end piece in that secondary. Going to be valuable. So we're going to go after Kalen Bullock here for the Browns. At pick 60 for the Detroit Lions, we, of course, go after an edge rusher in the first round because that's what I do. Pair up the best complement there we got to cook up the best complement for our beloved Aiden Hutchinson. Now, defensive interior, there's still some really good ones here. I think Ruka Rorho could be really sneaky. And, 295 pounds. He's extremely athletic, can even play some reps at edge too, in case you want to go a too heavy set edge. I think I'm going to go after Rook over a corner here, even though I always go corner. Let's change things up. Let's make things exciting. Ruka Rorho out of Clemson. At pick number 61 for the Bills. I've talked about, y'all have been able to coach me up very well on how to treat the Bills. The owner / GM they're not fans of being able to lose their picks. They in fact like to trade back. But we got Emeka Egbuka there in the first round. Incredible player who's used to playing those elements. Now, I think edge rusher is a prime opportunity here with Jonah Ellis to get someone who, is used to a little bit of the cold weather there up in Utah. Like, he can probably handle it. He can weather it very well, no pun intended. But, he is a top 32 player on my board. It is BPA. Von Miller pretty much done with his career. And, edge rusher is never a bad position to go. It never is a bad position to go. So we're going to go Jonah Ellis here. I mean, I want to give one more thought to the defensive secondary. You got Javon Bullard here. You got Bo Braid as well. Again, we could always get one of these dudes at 99. Like, there is the potential chance of that. Jedi Barron, Javon Bullard, Rod Moore even. I know that there's another defensive back from Michigan that, not talking about Mike Sanders still, but another one of the safeties that did a really good job. You could even go actually Chris Abrams-Drain here, who has played in the slot and played safety and played boundary very, very well. You know what? Let's put some respect on Chris Abrams-Drain's name. He's super duper. I keep saying versatile, but that's the case. A lot of these players are Swiss Army knives. So he's going to add a piece where you can just fill it wherever you want. Pause. Pick number is 62 for the Dallas Cowboys. We ended up targeting a left tackle in Kingsley Suamataia in the first round. And with the 62nd overall pick. Still looking at that center route because I do love building up the offensive line here. And, I might just trade back and get another center. Probably the best possible return on investment for this team. Again, linebackers, y'all have had your quarrels there. Defensive interior might be in the mood for someone like Brandon Dorless or even McKinley Jackson, but it's very, very early for players like that. Very early. Not a huge fan of that idea. So when looking at the best ROI, I think it's to move back. I just don't see the proper value here. When you have a top 32 player, I think he's at actually 32. What's funny is that I don't even realize this. I actually had 2 14s here. So thank you for pointing that out as well. So technically he is my number 32 player. Feel free to get mad at me for that. It is what it is. But my number 32 player on my board is still available in Jonah Ellis. I do think there should be a team that gets a little bit aggressive in this range. Looking right now at the Cardinals potentially being a good team to move up here, but they're still waiting for their defensive interior assistance. Like, I wouldn't trade with your own in-division rival because that's another team that would be really in the market for. But corner as well. is, I mean, I have Dwight McGlothern. I have Denzel Burke. Actually, with Denzel Burke on the board, I'm trading up with the Chargers. I think the Chargers need to get ballsy here. So, 7-spot trade. I think it's roughly the same value. I think 105, and then you give like 174 the comp pick. Yeah, that's a solid move. So essentially, you're moving up 69 spots. Nice. To give up, 69. To move up 7 spots, you got to give up 69 over here. And essentially, get 69 there. I'm fine with this one. I'm fine with it. There we go. Dallas Cowboys. They get some good compensation there to move up. The Chargers still keep the quantity that they're looking for, and they're getting a superstar corner 2 in Denzel Burke. At pick number 63, we're back with the Denver Broncos, who acquired this in a trade with San Francisco. So I'm happy that they're able to do that. So we have already targeted quarterback with them, and I think it's a great opportunity to get another edge rusher who is actually my number 32 player in Jonah Ellis. He's used to those elements. He's used to the environment. He is going to be a supreme addition to that defensive line. At pick 64 for the Baltimore Ravens, we ended up going Trey Fautanu at the end of the first. And looking at it, I might want to get Ladd McConkey to replace the role of Odell Beckham Jr. on this team. That being said, I do think you could go after a secondary player here. Some extra defensive back help. Never a bad thing, especially with Dwight McGlothern still on the board, who is my number 26. Because again, we're off by 1 here since I have 2 14s. 26th player in the draft. So might be in the market for that. But I do think this team might focus a little bit heavier on offense. Right now it does look, this predicts that they're going to win the Super Bowl. But Ladd McConkey, 6 foot, 190 roughly. That's what he'll be playing at. Let's do it. Ladd McConkey out of Georgia going to replace OBJ's role. At pick 69 or 65, we have the Carolina Panthers, who went after a superstar wide receiver in the first round, Xavier Legette. Pick 65, this is where you can take a swing on Patrick Paul. Why not? He's a consistent offensive tackle who knows how to pass block, and we'll see very, very soon. I'll see in person there in Mobile if he is going to be able to stack it up. But the value is right. Test it out. See what happens. Pick number 66. I want to just double check. Yeah, Jatavian Sanders is gone. Pick number 66. We're back with the Cardinals. And, defensive interior wise, you got Brandon Dorlus here. I know that you need some help stuffing the run, but, unfortunately, I rolled the dice and the dice did not roll in our favor. We've got a right tackle, a corner, as well as a wide receiver. Brandon Dorlus is still an incredible player. So we're not actually losing out here. Like, let's make that straight. McKinley Jackson has the better size, but Brandon Dorlus has the better talent. So we're going to go after Brandon Dorlus here out of Oregon. At pick 67 for the Washington Commanders, we have already gone after edge rusher. We've already gone after an offensive tackle, and we've also already gone after their quarterback of the future. So what's left is maybe another tackle. You could go Blake Fisher here, but, again, I don't really know if I think this team is going to be that crazy about going after that route when you could go after another linebacker like Edgerrin Cooper. Of course, we do have the 75th pick where we can also go after another player like that. There's good alternates around here. I do like the idea of Adisa Isaac, though. He has that size to complement what you already have in Braylon Trice. He's very smart. It's between him as well as my buddy Xavier Thomas here. But I think Adisa Isaac deserves the respect. I haven't been giving it to him. Super high football IQ, maybe not the best player on the board, but definitely one of those guys who's going to be a positive impact. He's never going to be out of position. And sometimes it's just what you need. So at pick 68 for New England, we've gone after a wide receiver as well as quarterback. Now is the time to target an offensive tackle. You got Blake Fisher on the board. That's the dude who I want to go after. Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame going to New England. At pick 69 for the Dallas Cowboys, this is where we take a center. And that's going to be Zach Frazier or Drake Nugent. But I think Zach Frazier has the most momentum at the moment. So we'll see what happens at the Senior Bowl. At pick number 70 for the New York Giants, y'all have already targeted a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, wide receiver Malik Neighbors, as well as an edge rusher in JT Tuimalau, because you got JT and KT. With this selection, could go after another wide receiver. I just don't think the value is worth it. Could go after a linebacker as well. Some people even brought up going after a safety. So the nice thing is you can't go really wrong with this pick. You can just go after a player that you like a lot. I still have a really good tackle in Javon Foster on the board. I just don't think he would be picked before someone who's as consistent as Patrick Paul. Offensive interior, you still have some really good players to develop here too. And I am going to go back. I think I've drafted this exact set of players before for New York, but Cooper Beebe's, the value is just too damn good. At pick 71, would have been a good spot for Cooper Beebe, but we got Brandon Dorless. We've also already drafted a right tackle in, why am I forgetting his name? Out of Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton, Nate Wiggins, as well as Marvin Harrison Jr. So with this selection, I do want to look at those edge rushers who are left. And, I think this might be a perfect opportunity to take my boy Xavier Thomas out of Clemson. They just value that athleticism that he's going to bring to the table for sure. 255 pounds. He was once 265. He is not actually listed here, but we'll give a nice little ADP boost to my boy Brian Ugwu. So Brian Ugwu will be the placeholder there for Xavier Thomas going to the Cardinals. At pick 72 for the New York Jets, we went and targeted a wide receiver in Rome Odunze, didn't we? I think I went after a wide receiver. I did. We ran out of the tackle sweepstakes, but at the same time, actually we didn't. There's Javon Foster here. Javon Foster is a perfect addition for the New York Jets. Day one impact on run blocking, and now you get Javon Foster as well as Rome Odunze. Get help out in the receiving area as well as the protection side. Both massive needs for the Jets. At pick 73 for the Detroit Lions, we went after defensive interior, did we not? We literally just went after defensive interior for the Lions, which that is a very fun pick with Ruka Roro as well as Chop Robinson. We fixed up that nice little defensive line of yours. Now I think the opportunity is to go after one of my favorite players in the draft, Dwight McGlothern out of Arkansas. Max Melton could be a selection for me, so I'm going to hold off on that. Let's see. We'll just go and continue ADP boosting Shaw Smith-Wade. So that's going to be a placeholder there for our beloved Dwight McGlothern, cornerback out of Arkansas. I just doubt that he'd actually be taken anywhere above the second round, and he ended up slipping here. At pick 74 for the Atlanta Falcons, again, Kirk Cousins is on this team. I forgot to mention that. That's what I project to happen. Y'all have already selected a wide receiver in Devontae Walker, as well as an edge rusher in Jared Verse. I think let's continue boosting that wide receiver room. I mean, you have one wide receiver on roster after this year. Let's go Xavier Worthy. Go BPA. So you get Xavier Worthy in the slot. You have Drake London as well as Tez Walker on the boundary. So Washington Commanders, we're back again. We got Adisa Isaac on our team, as well as Braylon Trice, as well as Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh, as well as Jayden Daniels. So good group of guys. Don't have any more tackles that I would take, unfortunately. Test your luck on Julian Pearl down the line, but he had an awful year. Just kind of embarrassing, if I'm going to be blunt. But, it is what it is. I do think corner could be within your realm of possibility, but I'm going to go after a linebacker here. And we're going to actually go after the best talent on the board, and that's Peyton Wilson. He's dealt with injuries throughout his career, but 6'4", 240 is unteachable, and he is really fluid as an athlete at that size. There's a lot more room that you can put on more weight as well. I would roll the dice with Peyton. At pick number 76, we still have all the star running backs on the board as well. For me, running backs are kind of more of an afterthought than anything because of the fact that, the NFL is kind of oversaturated. But at 76, the Broncos are back, and you got Michael Penix as well as Jonah Ellis. This is a good opportunity to check out those wide receivers again. Malachi Corley is not a bad choice. That's not bad. Neither is Jacob Cowing. You have some really solid players. Brandon Rice as well. Those are the three that I think I would select in this range. And when looking at Malachi Corley, he has proper size to him as well. He's a little bit on the smaller side at 5'11", but really good after the catch. To me, very similar to Rashee Rice. And I think since it has worked so far in KC, This is a very much a copycat league. I've been wanting to show more respect to Malachi Corley as well. At pick 77 for the Vegas Raiders, we have Justin Fields on the team, so holla, as well as Kool-Aid McKinstry. Let's double check that fact, and that fact is true. So maybe we could have gotten Josh Newton here instead. There's always ways that you can twist it and be like, oh, boo-hoo. But we're going to get the best running back off the board. And that's going to be Trey Benson out of Florida State. Could go Bucky Irving here. Jonathan Brooks declared. Don't know why, but, post ACL tear, it's intriguing to say that. Intriguing that you would try to come out. I don't understand that. But, to each his own. He's going to make some money. Happy for him. Hopefully he never has to, work a day in his life again. At pick number 78 for the Seattle Seahawks, left guard is going to be the way I really want to go. But in the first round, we went defensive interior with Jerzon Johnny Newton. Linebacker as well. So it's linebacker as well. That I think linebacker is more key. Let's go after Edgerrin Cooper. He's super well balanced, good in coverage as well. That's where we really need to harp on. I don't think a left guard is going to get taken in the next couple picks. Therefore, we're still fine. The Bears are on the board and could go after another corner. I do know people have talked about safety, actually. And you got Javon Bullard here, who's more of a slot safety than anything. You got James Williams here. There's some good players. Even Mike Sainer still. You could try to toss in as a true safety. Good options. We've already gotten our wide receiver fix with Jalen Polk. We already have our center fix with Cedric Van Pran. We also have our quarterback fix with Caleb Williams, as well as our D-line fix there with Dallas Turner. Again, could go after one of the falling corners in case we don't end up re-signing Jalen Johnson, but I don't really want to put that bad vibe out there. That's just that's a bad juju, and I don't need that for y'all or for myself. Let's go after Javon Bullard and try to train him for a year to be the successor there to Eddie Jackson. Pick number 80 for the Cincinnati Bengals. We've gone after tackle and defensive interior so far. Tight end wise, Theo Johnson might be that dude who ends up building up some steam. Jaheim Bell, Trey Knox is actually really damn solid. There's some good depth tight ends in this class. Some good depth tight ends. I'm not going to go that route. I'm actually going to go after our beloved Jacob Cowing to be the future of the slot there. Tyler Boyd, he's up for a contract. Probably not going to be brought back. T. Higgins as well, but, replace him with Jacob Cowing. Don't try to replace T. Higgins unless you really think the value is right with a receiver in the first or a faller in the second. At pick 81 for the Seattle Seahawks, I just telegraphed exactly what I was going to do. We're going to go left guard. And that left guard, who's really damn talented, who actually could potentially play tackle, is Donovan Jackson. At pick number 82 for the Indianapolis Colts, we went Cooper DeJean, and we also went defensive interior with Chris Jenkins. Those are two really good positions to go. Could even go a corner here because based on the guys who are falling, could even try to get a linebacker for the future. This is a good spot to trade back. I mean, wide receiver wise, we could actually go after the one remaining dude in Brandon Rice, who, USC to USC connection right there with Michael Pittman Jr. He is 6'3", 210 pounds. Could complement that very well. You know what? I like that. It worked last time he went to USC for a top tier receiver. Let's do it again. At pick number 83 for the Green Bay Packers, we have already gone after safety, linebacker, as well as corner. The casual trio. Now we're actually going to be looking at a running back. Jonathan Brooks is a legitimate option, but I do think Audric Estime and Braylon Allen are the dudes who I think would be a little bit more up the alley of the Packers. And Audric Estime had I think he was the highest at 94.1 PFF grade this year. So we're just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He is very familiar with that territory. He is a hard hitter, and he's actually pretty damn light on his feet. Good player, and I want to show a little bit more love to Audric Estime, so he goes right there. At pick 84 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we're going to look at offensive line now. We have already gone after a top-tier edge rusher in Leatu Lontu, as well as Johnny Wilson. So looking at the offensive linemen that are available, it's pretty much down to Bo Limmer and Drake Nugent, and I love the right guard ability of Bo Limmer. He can play both right and left guard. Don't worry about that. But he was a top-tier guard. He was a top, 32 player for a hot minute there. He had a little bit of struggles there at center, but, he has the ability to switch in if need be. At pick number 85 for the Arizona Cardinals, we've done a lot. We got our elite edge, Brian Ugwu. Just kidding. That is going to be my buddy Xavier Thomas, number 27 on my board. We've also gone Brandon Dorless, gone after Nate Wiggins, gone after Marvin Harrison Jr., as well as a right tackle on Tyler Guyton. So lots of really big moves, a lot of really good moves. And I think now we can get McKinley Jackson, 325 pounds and very athletic. Why not? Like there's a legitimate question. Why not? So McKinley Jackson essentially going to be, a little bit worse version of Kalijah Kancey, who was 285 last year, taken in the first round. So, I would say he's 80% the talent at 40 pounds more weight. Pretty damn good. At pick 86 for the Los Angeles Rams, probably would have been my pick for the Rams as well. They've gone after corner as well as a left tackle. So, defense interior, Mekhi Wingo, tons of potential on the dude. He's just outside my top 100. I definitely think that is something you should consider. But I am going to be looking in that linebacker room. And, you got Michael Barrett. You got Tyron Hopper there. I mean, hell, we got Curtis Jacobs as well, who I think is extremely underrated. I don't get the hate on Curtis Jacobs here. But Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is probably the highest IQ out of the linebackers. A little bit lower on his overall athleticism, but good in coverage. And he is just a little bit shorter, but, NFL blood, NFL lineage, well worth the shot in round 2. At pick 87 for the Steelers, we have gone after a center as well as a corner. So center in Jackson Powers Johnson, corner in Kalen King. Now, I do think we could go for a safety here, for a hard-hitting safety like James Williams. That is something we are in the market for. Tackle, I just don't see the value there anymore. Other positions we could go after, I think linebacker. Like Tommy Eichenberg feels like a Steelers type of linebacker. Tyron Hopper would be intriguing, but he'd be more of an edge rusher. Curtis Jacobs, another one that I think should be in consideration, but we're going to go with Tommy Eichenberg. He had a little bit of a down year, but still had that potential to be a top tier first round quality linebacker. At pick 88, again for the Pittsburgh Steelers, got this through that trade. I think it was with Jacksonville, actually. I'm trying to remember exactly who did this trade, but I'm pretty sure it was the Jacksonville Jaguars who traded with the Steelers. But anywho, we're going to be looking at, again, we just addressed linebacker. We've already addressed corner. We have already addressed interior offensive line. So this feels like almost a luxury pick for the Steelers. Again, I would consider going after a harder hitting safety like James Williams, who, I'm a big fan of. Big fan. Now, wide receiver, you could try to get somebody. The value just is not there. So I'm honestly debating moving out of this pick. I think that's the right thing to do. I just don't see anybody who would really make this pick worth it. I don't think the Steelers need to go after a running back. And, there are some really good ones on the board. And I think that's where a team should move up to select one. Like, there's a top tier running back on the board right now in Bucky Irving, and he needs to be taken. He's a really good player. So let's evaluate the trade options here. The Eagles could be in the market for a Bucky Irving, but they've already traded up once and made a big trade. I doubt that they would go after a running back. You could look, Green Bay Packers could get some, lightning and thunder, so to speak, at that point. Doubt that happens. But, the Cardinals, they definitely are in the market for one, but I'm going to opt out of it with them as well. The Vikings could get a little ballsy here because I don't think they need very much else. They kind of just need a star running back, a star quarterback, and then they also needed a star edge rusher. Let's try it out. We're going to end up giving a future fourth, or maybe, I don't think a future third. Maybe we can give that future fourth that we got. So yeah, we're going to get a future third. We're going to essentially move up a full round to move back 20 spots. I think that's fair for both sides as well. Minnesota, this is just kind of one of those key issues that you're not going to get a similar value at 108 because I do want to go on a small running back run, no pun intended. And we're going to go Bucky Irving here out of Oregon. He's such a polished player and probably will end up being my RB1 at the end of the day. But, this is just prime value. You need to do that. The Steelers, there's just no value for them in this round. It really isn't. So at pick number 89 for the Chiefs, we've already gone after wide receiver Jermaine Burton, defensive interior as well as Byron Murphy. The wide receivers that are left, I'm not over the moon about. I think this is a proper time as well to be able to trade out of here. Again, for running back or corner help, there's a top tier corner here in Josh Newton. I'm going to see if maybe we could trade out with a team that's going to be a little bit desperate for some corner help. Not many teams that I think actually are pretty desperate for corners that haven't gotten one already. I mean, the Eagles even got their corner. The Bills haven't gotten their corner yet. The Bills could. I know they went after Chris Abrams-Drain, but that's not the case. Baltimore, I don't think you want to arm your own competitors here. So that's going to be the only other team that I really see. The Jaguars, I think we already picked at 57 a defensive back for him in TJ Tampa. So the mindset is there. I just don't really see the proper value for a team to move up for another corner, unfortunately. So KC is going to have to stay put. You could go for a developmental offensive lineman, but you're kind of already dealing with the shit that comes with that right now. There are teams that should move up for a running back. I'm really trying to make this happen. We're going to trade with the Lions. We're going to do that. I think we're going to make a small trade up. You might say why, but I honestly think that it's not a bad idea to just get up and secure a top tier corner. Like for the Lions, we haven't done that yet. Like at we got 73 and pick 60. We got Dwight McGlothern. Welcome to a live mock draft, everybody. This is where we make stupid mistakes like that. That almost happened. Oh, well, boo-hoo. Actually, Niners. Let's get ballsy with the Niners. I know the Chiefs don't want to arm the Niners, but this is just going to be a heavy price to pay in order to make it happen. And you know what? Teams who are competitors trade with each other when the price is right. Niners move up and select Josh Newton, cornerback out of TCU. Just too good to be on the board at the moment. Consistent, solid veteran for a team that really needs it. At pick 90, we're back with the Cleveland Browns. We went after wide receiver for him. Correct? No, we went after Kalen Bullock. Oh, that's surprising. That is surprising. I mean, it's good value, but for me, I didn't expect that. Jalen McMillan, actually, this is where he's fringe in the range. 6'1", 192, could play that boundary role. Good after the catch as well. This is where I'm going to actually end up taking Jalen McMillan. At pick number 91, back with Detroit again. We're going interior offensive line for y'all. We're actually going to look at Drake Nugent pretty heavily. Michigan guy, center, but could move him to guard. And then he has that center versatility. I love being able to see players who have that. So Drake Nugent is the option for the Lions. At pick 92 for the Green Bay Packers. This was part of that, why am I tripping? The Rasul Douglas trade. And Ennis Rakestraw is still on the board. I do think he should be coming off ASAP. You could, of course, get some lightning with that Thunder, though. I mean, I'm just saying, you got Marshawn Lloyd here. Like, pair up Marshawn Lloyd with Audric Estime, Lightning and Thunder. It's a way to rock. Let's do it. This team has so many picks. It's just kind of ridiculous at this point. Pick 93 with the Dallas Cowboys. Another team that could have taken Marshawn Lloyd as well. With Ennis Rakestraw continuing to fall, you probably will want to continue getting depth in that corner core. And Ennis Rakestraw is, I think it's just BPA. So let's go BPA for the Cowboys here. At pick 94 for the KC Chiefs. Again, we just traded back to get some extra draft capital. I think I actually might go for another defensive interior. Mekhi Wingo is super versatile as well. A little bit on the lighter side at sub 300, but the upside is there. He just needs to learn how to launch off the ball. It is extremely bothersome, but the talent's there. The talent is there. At pick 95 for the Ravens, we've gone after wide receiver as well as offensive line. So I'm going to debate going defensive line here. Looking at the options that are remaining, Teddy Williams, I think, is deciding to return to school. So RIP to that. I don't think Braden Fiske is going to be someone who I'd pick today. Looking at the defensive backs, though, you got Mike Sainristil still, who I do love. Jabbar Muhammad, who I really like as well. But I think he's on the smaller side, yeah. Even though he plays some boundary reps, slot corner is just very tough to draft. Very tough to draft in this time. So it's the only issue I see with these guys. Defensive line, yeah, already kind of canceled those guys out. Could look, again, at just a pure interior offensive lineman. This could just be BPA as well. It's up to you. But for me, I actually might arm myself with another lower priced option at running back and go with Braylon Allen. Just test out what you can get with a dude who can just hit the hole 25 times a game and be your Derrick Henry. I would love to test out the theory of Braylon Allen. Well, as a Steelers fan, I wouldn't. But, if I put my Ravens cap on, I would love to see what would happen if Braylon Allen ends up going to Baltimore. At pick 96 for Jacksonville, we've gone interior offensive line, wide receiver, defensive back. So don't really need much more. The edges that are remaining, I don't believe I even have some dudes who are off the board anymore to take. Yeah, we don't. So you guys get a little bit more of my board right there. This team, the team should be performing better. I don't think the wide receivers are worth it for the Jaguars specifically. I could see them go after just 2 interior offensive linemen at the moment and go Zach Zinter because he's going to be a great asset in the run game. Or we could see them go after a defensive back. You know what? Let's have a Mike Sainristil or Jabbar Muhammad experiment as a safety. I love Mike Sainristil. Deserves to get picked in this, and I'm just going to force it. Mike Sainristil goes to the Jaguars. I think he's in the 180s. Yeah, 5'10", 182. Just an absolute ball hawk as well. It's just worth testing the theory. At pick 97 for the Eagles, we need a linebacker. And lucky for us, we do have quite a few on the board. Michael Barrett is someone who I really do love. He's a 6th-year player, so he's a little bit on the older side, but 6 foot. He's 6 foot, 240 pounds. This team needs a Mike linebacker, and at 240 pounds, that's going to be someone that you're looking for. He's been extremely efficient all year long. So that's going to be the guy who I'm really gunning for Philadelphia. Just that's the way that we should rock. Let's go. Michael Barrett out of Michigan. At pick number 98 for the San Francisco 49ers, we moved up to select a corner in Josh Newton, as well as move up to select a top-tier right tackle in Talise Fuaga. So with this selection, this team doesn't need much. It really doesn't. I might just go BPA at this point, go after another corner in Jabbar Muhammad, and then see if he can play somewhere. DJ James as well, super versatile, but he's on the thinner side as well. 6'1", 164 pounds. That's a little bit on the smaller side. Let's go Kalen Carson though. He got eaten alive by Keon Coleman, but this is at pick 98, worth taking the risk. It's worth taking the risk. At pick 99 for the Buffalo Bills, we've already targeted not Kingsley. I wanted to say Kingsley Suamatea, but Chris Abrams-Drain, as well as Emeka Ibuka. For the final pick of the Bills, I think another corner is on the table. No offensive tackles I think could offer anything to this team. Offensive line, there's a limited amount. So I think the edge rushing crew, man, it's a little bit thin here. It's a little bit thin. So that's the unfortunate thing as well. It does kind of slip quite a bit. It's not a great spot. I'll put it that way. But I do think you could go another corner here. And you got Jason Marshall. I think he's going to return to school. I don't believe he's going to come out, but y'all can feel free to correct me if I am wrong. This might be the right place to test out Jabbar Muhammad. Just have 2 guys who, you need 2 safeties anyway. That's going to be where I'm going to go. Just go BPA, get DBs, and see where they fall, see where they place. And last but not least, at pick 100 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we've got Mike Sainristil, superstar defensive back out of Michigan and, national champion. And then we also have a superstar guard, who's my number 12 player, Christian Haynes, and then also Keon Coleman. Good group of guys. So with this final selection, could end up doing a bulky thing here and going after another athletic interior offensive lineman. Again, talked about Zach Zinter before and pairing him up with Mike Sainristil, get some chemistry right away. Wide receiver, we've kind of already ruled that out. Man, I could go defensive interior here, but I just don't really like the options available. I really don't. And you got Jonathan Brooks on the board. Let's see if we could make a small trade here. Let's try. I think the Dallas Cowboys should be excited to make a small trade here. They got Ennis Rakestraw. They got center as well. And then they've also got their left tackle of the future. Let's get them a little guy from Texas. Let's get him a UT player. It's going to require a 5th round pick next year. It's super small range. The Jaguars can start building up more and more draft capital for the next year. Balky will love that. And so Jonathan Brooks, coming off an ACL tear, but pretty much the consensus RB1, ends up being the value selection there for the Cowboys. That is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching and showing the love that you always do. See you on the far side.